I like this song. Lovely. But that's not what I'm here for. Hello, everyone. My name is Real Predhead, and I am a bear. I hope you're all having a very nice day. Let's just get things started. Today we're reading Immortality Starts with Generosity. Rather, we're continuing it. Today we'll be covering chapters 21 through 30. Stream is expected to last about 2 hours. As for recap, let's see what happened last time. Our young master, Chen Haoren, was training with his sham wife, Lan Fen. Then they went into the woods, and she forced him to fight a lot of demon pigs. He hated the demon pigs. Then, since they were going into the forest to recover Lan Fen's secret savings, they found that the savings were in a clearing under a tree. A tree which had been taken over by a ninth realm chi layer. No, ninth layer chi realm. No, yes, no, that's right. Ninth layer chi realm. If you need a reminder, the realms go like this. You first start in the chi realm. That's not my marker. There we are. You start in the chi realm. Then you go to the liquid meridian realm. And then past that, there is the crystallization realm, which had more to its name, but I can't remember what it was. We haven't met any of these yet. And then there's the Star Core realm, whatever that means. We haven't met any of them either. Each realm has 9 layers. Our protagonist, Shen Haoren, is currently at the 5th layer of the Chi realm. And his wife, Lan Fen, who I remind is a sham wife from a wedding that was clearly intended to shame her, is currently at the zero, not a, well, could you call it the 0th realm? Let's call it the 0th realm. And she was previous at the 9th. Yes, that looks good. As I was saying, they found her savings under the tree she'd buried it in a clearing. She did not bury it in a clearing. Instead, the clearing had been taken over by a ninth realm tree spirit snake or something. The snake did not wish them to have the things. Chen Howard blew its head off with a canyon carving sword, and they proceeded to get her savings. She poured all of her savings into her weird inventory space and gave Chen Howard her bag, and the next night they left to go to a spooky auction run by a bunch of spooky people. They cleaned out the auction with Chen Howren's ridiculous amounts of money. He also noticed that during the auction, Lan Fen had put one of the jewels she'd pulled from her pouch up for auction. It was apparently a powerful cultivation aid for wood-type cultivators. Then Lan Fen returned to her isolation training, saying that she wouldn't come out until she was at least at the 5th layer. Around that time, while Chen Haoren continued trying to increase his cultivation, we met the lovely and charming manager Song. Song Yue Lin was a manager sent from the Chen family to investigate some irregularities in Chen Haoren's finances. He was also a super ninja, and possibly an assassin. After some back and forth, Chen Haoren fired Manager Lin as the obvious culprit for reporting him to the family, at which point Manager Song placed himself in the position, as the young master cannot go without a manager. Song Yue Lin has proven valuable to the young master's training, and the young master, but he was also a violent, but then he also allowed a violent friend from the Lan family to visit, and then left him sitting in a room for 2 hours. We have just seen said victim of the Lan family charge into the training grounds in a rage at young Chen Haoran. Damn, this song is good. I hope it's not too loud. Anyway, let's take it from there. Chapter 21. This young master will make a break.
Is this how the Chen family treats its guests? I demand answers, Chen Haoran.
Lan Junjie looked like a male version of Lan Fen. White hair, golden eyes. On the other hand, his composure was lacking compared to hers. His pale skin was flushed red with rage, and he spat fire with every word. Chen Haoren felt his rising qi rippling with his anger. Qi realm, 5th layer.
Well,
Lan Junji's golden eyes flashed at him.
the whole Lan family
The whole Lan family really was blessed in that regard. Chen Haoren could not understand Lan Junjie's fury. He would be pissed too. Oh, he could understand. He would be pissed too if he was left waiting for 2 hours like an idiot. Thus, he would respond to Lan Junjie with empathy and compassion. The fuck do you want? Chen Haoren picked at his ear. Song Yue Lin had really knocked his skull around when he slapped him.
The fuck do I want?
Lan Junjie said, incredulous. He purpled.
The fuck do I want?
He roared. It was bold of Chen Haoren to curse him out, but he didn't have a better option. He didn't have Lan Fen here to fill in for what he didn't know, and he couldn't let the Lan family know anything. He could only be unreasonable and uncooperative. Lan Junjie stepped close to Chen Haoren, qi flaring dangerously. He was quiet as he spoke, but no less angry.
Is that any way to speak to the people whose money you took?
He punctuated his sentence by reaching out a hand and pushing Chen Haoren. Chen Haoren frowned. He didn't like being pushed.
Don't do that again.
Lan Junjie scoffed at him.
After how long you've kept us waiting? Be thankful it's me and not Lan Yao.
Why are you here?
Why else would I be here? You haven't communicated with us at all.
Some sort of follow-up on Lan Fen? Or was the deal between Lan Yao and the young master the start of a longer-term partnership? Manager Lin probably facilitated communication between them. Chen Haoran shrugged off the accusation.
I've had issues of my own. Don't blame me for prioritizing them. Such as those cultivation supplements you purchased?
Lan Zhenjia's suspicion was clear on his face.
Get to your point.
Lan Zhenjie scanned the training field.
Are we alone?
No, Song Yue Lin was absolutely creeping around.
Yes,
He replied.
have you broken Lan Fen yet?
Chen Haoren carefully didn't react to the question. Lan Zhenjie's question struck him as wrong, as if there was a purpose to the cruelty. If the young master had broken Lan Fen, what did they intend to do with the pieces?
You know who Lan Fen is. Do you really think it's that easy?
She's crippled, Junjie mocked.
Can you not handle a mortal girl?
It was Chen Haoren's turn to scoff. He had seen that mortal girl kill a seventh layer cultivator with her fingers. Nothing about Lan Fen in the short time he had known her was normal, even if she genuinely couldn't cultivate. Even without him taking over the young master's body, this plan would have failed regardless, with how severely they underestimated Lan Fen.
Hurry it up,
Lan Junjie continued.
Lan Yao's getting impatient. Get ready for the handover.
Handover? Chen Haoren internally winced. He misspoke.
What are you saying, Chen Haoren?
If before Lan Jinjie was look angry, he was now dangerously quiet. His hand fell hard on Chen Haoren's shoulder. It was a careless mistake on Chen Haoren's part, but being told to hand Lan Fen over surprised him. It didn't sound like it was due to his recent actions either. This was probably originally planned between the young master and Lan Yao. What was the point, though? To torture Lan Fen? Lan Yao could just come here for that. Lan Yao was the one who spurred Lan Fen's marriage to him to begin with. Why send her away from the Lan family and then bring her back?
Explain yourself, Chen Haoren. You better not be thinking of crossing my sister.
His grip on Chen Haoren's shoulder tightened with every word. No, not back to the Lan family. Back to Lan Yao. Whatever it was she wanted Lan Fen for, she didn't want the Lan family to know. Chen Haoren sneered.
Why would I hand over Lan Fen when I'm not finished with her?
Lan Junjie exploded with the full force of his cultivation, trying to crush Chen Haoren's shoulder. Chen Haoren allowed him the futile attempt. A Chi Realm fifth layer couldn't break his stride, let alone his bones.
That was not part of the deal, Chen Haoren,
Lan Junjie said through gritted teeth. Could such a perfect moment really exist?
I have altered the deal.
Chen Haoren cycled his chi and brushed Lan Junjie's hand off his shoulder.
Pray I do not alter it further.
He smiled. It was a tense situation, but he had always wanted to say that. Frustrated, Lan Junjie pushed Chen Haoren again. He told him not to do that.
Listen here, you.
Lan Junjie didn't have time to finish. Chen Haoren's backhand caught him in the jaw and sent him sprawling. Chen Haoren loomed over his fallen form as Lan Junjie cradled his mouth. He looked up at Chen Haoren with a disbelief that soon turned into rage.
You bastard!
Chen Haoren kicked him full in the chest and cut short his attempt to rise. Lan Junjie went skidding across the ground in a cloud of dust.
Fuck!
The dust was blown away. Lan Junjie stood worse for wear. His fine robes were dirtied and a large bruise was forming on his face. While his chi brought out in full force, Chen Haoren still saw how he winced. He hadn't held back with his kick.
Do you remember who I am, Chen Haoren?
Lan Junjie roared.
I told you not to push me,
Chen Haoren replied. He didn't like getting pushed. Lan Junjie growled in lieu of a response and his hands glowed green. Chen Haoren unsheathed his sword. He is curious to see the profound technique of the Lan family.
I've brought cookies!
Song Yue Lin landed from the air in between them. He held a silver platter stacked high with pastries. The scene froze. Song Yue Lin looked happily around.
Would you care for a cookie, young master?
Lan Junjie rapidly shook his head, the green light around his hands vanishing.
Pity. And you, young Master Chen?
Chen Haoren snorted in annoyance. He shooed Lan Junjie away.
Go tell Lan Yao that I'll do as I please.
Lan Junjie looked warily at Song Yue Lin.
This isn't over, Chen Haoren.
He warned before leaving.
It's a shame he didn't want any cookies.
Yeah, Song Yue Lin pinched one from the platter and noisily chewed it.
They're really quite good,
he said between mouthfuls. Are you going to explain yourself? Chen Haoren demanded.
No.
Song Yue Lin ate another cookie. Of course he wouldn't. Chen Haoren grabbed a cookie for himself. They were flower-shaped with some kind of jam in the center. He ate it and tasted butter. They really were quite good. Why did you only come out just now? He asked.
I came to bring snacks, of course.
Another cookie. Of course, he blandly echoed. Your help would have been appreciated earlier.
I did ask before. You said you didn't need the Chen family's assistance to deal with the Lan family.
Chen Haoren's pent-up annoyance evaporated. He sighed in defeat. He did indeed say that. He should have expected Song Yue Lin would use it against him.
I must say, though, young Master Chen,
Song Yue Lin said, licking his fingers,
the more I learn about this sordid affair between you and the Lan family, the more interested I am in meeting your lady wife.
She's amazing, Chen Haoren honestly told him. I hope she leaves you completely stupefied and shocked. He would enjoy that. Song Yue Lin laughed.
I look forward to it, then.
He offered Chen Haoren another cookie.
What will you do now?
Things would no doubt intensify with Lan Yao after this. Fortunately, she should assume he's just going rogue rather than actively working against her. Lan Fen would still have the element of surprise on her side when she left isolation training. Chen Haoren took the cookie and savored it. He should prepare more gifts for Lan Fen when she restored her cultivation. It was worthy of celebration, after all. Chen Haoren looked at Song Yue Lin.
Young master?
If Song Yue Lin was going to stick around and be annoying, the least Chen Haoren could do was put him to work. We're going to the mountains, Chen Haoren declared. Song Yue Lin stared at him in a daze. He looked hesitant. Chen Haoren started getting nervous. Had he misspoken again?
But the cookies,
Song Yue Lin said glumly. Chen Haoren saw red. You can bring the cookies with you. End chapter 21. I've had some cookies that match that description. Flower shaped with some kind of jam in the center. They are quite good. Hello, Itsutai. It's nice to see you. I hope you're having a nice day. Did you happen to catch the recap? No, wait, you were here last time. You don't need the recap. And you like to live dangerously, which is why you keep coming to see a bear. Well, let's press on. Chapter 22. This young master does not admire nature. The last time he had left the cities with Lan Fen, they had gone east. This time he and Song Yue Lin went north. Clear Spring City was named such for the numerous springs in its territory. It amused Chen Haoren that nobody mentioned that said springs were located in large green mountains that surrounded the city on 3 sides. It really is a shame that I've been spending more time out of the city than I have in it, he said.
Need I remind you that this was your idea, young Master Chen?
I know, that's why it's so shameful. He wanted to explore the city as well. He'd have to make some more time for it. This place isn't so bad, though. They were deep in the mountains when they discovered a secluded grove. The small pond was fed by a burbling brook that flowed from some unknown source higher up the mountain. Shenhauer took his shoes off and soaked them in the cool water. This trip was much more pleasant than the last one. They had been unmolested the entire journey. Song Yue Lin's doing, no doubt.
You still haven't told me why you're here, young Master Chen.
Chen Howard looked over his shoulder. You're here to earn your keep. Young Wei Lin blinked.
My keep?
Chen Howard smirked. How much do you think those cookies cost? My chef isn't cheap, you know. You're going to be looking for treasure to pay for them.
And what will you be doing while I brave the dangers of the wilderness?
Supervising, he said. Chen Howard leaned back into the soft grass with a contented sigh. Lan Fan had the right idea. Song Yue Lin's shadow ruined his beautiful moment.
Laziness is a terrible habit, young Master Chen,
Song Yue Lin said seriously.
Are you not in a position where every available moment to train is precious?
Chen Howard clicked his teeth. Song Yue Lin wasn't wrong, but damn if he didn't want a moment of peace right now. He just wanted to inflict onto others what was done to him. Was that too much to ask?
If you don't train, then I won't do anything either.
Song Yue Lin promptly sat down to punctuate his threat. Chen sighed. All right, I'll train. You better not slack off either, though.
Don't worry, young Master Chen. I have the perfect training in mind.
Song Yue Lin looked pleased. Break. The screaming hell pig slammed into Chen Howren's unguarded side. The monster carried him with the blow and straight through a tree. They separated in the splinters, and Chen Howard immediately jumped into the air, avoiding three more hell pigs attempting to gore him. Rather than fall and be surrounded, he grasped a tree branch with his free hand. Below him, 16 hell pigs surrounded the tree. The largest one, Chi Realm's sixth layer, pawed the ground in preparation for a charge. If it wanted to it wanted to bring the whole tree down. Chen Howren's sword glowed blue. The pig charged, and he let go. Canyon carving sword. Instinct had caused the hell pigs to congregate under the tree. The same instinct had them attempt to flee as a blue river of energy engulfed their leader. The ground cracked and split beneath their feet, and the pigs fell. Blue energy sliced through flesh and earth alike. Chen Howren landed heavily in a bloody pit. He breathed deeply and felt for where the tusks impacted him. No blood. They hadn't pierced through.
Excellent work, young Master Chen.
Song Yue Lin's voice echoed unseen from the tree canopy. A blue flower fell to his feet.
I was lucky enough to find a moonflower.
Is this valuable? Chen Howren picked up the flower and dropped it into his storage bag.
No, it looks pretty, though.
Are you even taking this seriously? Chen Howren roared.
Of course I am,
Song Yue Lin chirped. Chen Howren could imagine the shit-eating smile on his face.
It's not like we're that far from the city. Even for a liquid meridian realm, it's hard to find something good in an area that's been picked clean.
Chen Howren sighed in frustration. He climbed out of the pit and flopped onto the ground exhausted. Song Yue Lin and Lan Fen must have shared their notes because they both had similar ideas about training in the mountains. At least Song Yue Lin let him use the canyon carving sword. As if to make up for that, the grace, he had no compunctions about leading stronger monsters to Chen Howren. The bastard didn't even have the decency to find anything good. While Song Yue Lin's excuse made sense, Chen Howren couldn't shake the feeling that he was just picking out the garbage from his storage bag. Why does it always have to be the fucking pigs? Chen Howren sighed.
Don't be like that. Demonic thrush pigs are a constant pest for the people. Getting rid of them is doing a public service.
Chen Haoren groaned.
Oh, fine, Chen Song Yuelin said. Was that mercy you heard in his voice? There's more than just pigs on this mountain, anyway.
Chen Haoren barely had enough time to scramble to his feet as a giant brown bear, barreled into view. A Chi realm 8th layer. Chen Haoren ran.
I'm not seeing any training being done, young Master Chen,
Song Yuelin called after him. Despite racing through the forest with a giant murder bear after him, Chen Haoren could still clearly hear Song Yuelin's voice. It's called evasion training! Chen Haoren shouted into the sky. He raced up the overgrown slopes of the mountain, ducking branches and jumping only to hear the bear behind him crash through them. Bear?
Ah, an excellent idea.
Chen Haoren didn't register what was going on until he felt a flare of energy in the distance, strong enough that he didn't need his sense to be able to feel the chi. The noise in the forest died suddenly, even the monster bear, stalling in its tracks. Chen Haoren put as much distance between them as he could. He could feel the earth rumbling. The birds were the first to move, rising into the sky in such numbers they blotted out the evening sun's waning light. The beasts surged out after them, a single rolling tide of panicked animals. Pigs, wolves, foxes, tigers, and monsters of all shapes and sizes, both familiar and not.
Do your best, young Master Chen.
Song Yuelin, you crazy fucker! Chen Hao ran up the mountain. The monsters ran after Chen Hao ran. The day ran into the night. Whenever he thought he had finally escaped, Song Yuelin would flare his chi again and herd this horde in his direction. His breaths came up short, and blood ran in rivulets down his exposed torso. His shirt had been torn to shreds under the same devastating claws that finally ripped open his durable skin. He did not know where he was or how far into the mountains he ran. Everything else had faded away save for the way forward and the chi running through his body. He could see the light ahead of him in the tunnel that surrounded his vision, a soft green blue that beckoned him forward until he finally tripped. His awareness returned. The light he had seen was a glowing pool high in the mountains. It sat at the bottom of a depression in the earth which had caused him to lose his footing. He stared blankly at the water. No, it was chi. It was a pool of liquid chi. The roaring of the monsters snapped him out of his shock. He looked back. He could see the madness in their red eyes. He could not run any more, but he couldn't fight the monsters either. Song Yuelin hadn't responded at all to his pleading the whole night, but he knew he was watching this. Song Yuelin wouldn't let him die. The issue was when he would decide to step in. Chen Haoren gritted his teeth and pulled out his sword. He faced the horde. Come on, then! He roared. He tried to use the canyon-carving sword, which didn't have the chi. Despite that, he still felt like he had a river in his hands. Chen Haoren roared and raised his sword in defiance. The night grew black. Liquid shadow flooded out of the darkness and drowned the horde. The angry roaring of the monsters was consumed, and silence was born. Chen Haoren watched the flood, and the beasts within it rushed down the mountain in an avalanche of shadow and flesh. Beautiful, isn't it? Song Yuelin was next to him. Chen Haoren swung his sword in shock, his river turning into familiar water steel. Song Yuelin casually batted away with his bare hands. He was looking at the chi pool. Chen Haoren's legs gave out. It was over. He was alive. Too exhausted to be furious at Song Yuelin, he tiredly responded. What is this place?
A morning pool.
Song Yuelin said. His smile was gone. Song Yuelin approached the unnaturally still waters and peered at his reflection. Chen Haoren wondered what he saw in it.
A liquid meridian realm has fallen here.
End chapter 22. I have to object to the bear being swept aside so easily. But I suppose it had a low cultivation, so it was probably a very young bear. Bears should be more powerful in this setting. Yes, the representation hasn't been great so far. Chapter 23. This young master has a talk. The morning pool was green and the only light in the night. It dyed the world around them with its color. The trees were solid and heavy with fruit. Moonflowers carpeted the ground. Unlike the pale flower that Song Yue Lin had dropped in his lap, these grew tall and vibrant blue. A liquid meridian realm leaves this behind when they die? Typically, the liquid is absorbed into the environment. It takes the right conditions and luck for a pool to form. Song Yue Lin knelt on the lush grass at the pool's edge. They sound rare. Chen Howard struggled to sit up. He couldn't miss the chance to learn about the next realm. They are uncommon, yes, particularly since they are an incredibly useful resource for any cultivator who stumbles upon them. Something heavy settled in the air. Song Yue Lin had said it in an off-handed way, his tone neutral, but it was clear that he had his own opinions on the practice. Chen Howard hesitated, but pushed forward regardless. Will you tell me about the Liquid Meridian realm? What is there to say? Young Song Yue Lin said. Chen Howard had the feeling it was rhetorical. In the Qi realm, one concentrates the Qi into a single point until a drop of liquid is created. They shepherd that droplet through their meridians as it grows larger, becoming a stream, a river, a torrent, and finally a flood, Chen Howard realized. You said a liquid meridian realm's Qi floods through their body. That wasn't a metaphor. Song Yue Lin did not turn around. A liquid meridian realm is a walking flood, both in its destructive potential, he motioned to the scenery around them, and the life-giving benefits left at its passing. Song Lin huffed a laugh, but it was harsh in contrast to his typical joy. It's almost beautiful in its own way. Chen Howard dragged himself over to Song Lin. In the pool's unnaturally still waters, he saw a face with bloodshot eyes and sagging with exhaustion. He touched his face. His reflection looked alive in the liquid chi as if at any moment it would reach out and touch him with the same hand. He peeked over at Song Yue Lin's reflection. The face in the water had more in common with the stones strewn across the pool's depths than the man it was ostensibly a reflection of. Chen Haoren looked away and instead peered deeper into the pool. It was a clear view to the bottom. There's no body? He noted. Anyone but one who moved it would have taken the liquid chi with them. Had it decomposed then? There never is, Song Yuelin airily replied. A liquid meridian realm gives up that right. What? Chen Howard went cold. A liquid meridian realm must hold their floodgates firmly in control. It's what separates them as cultivators from a typical disaster. Song Yuelin's hands clenched and unclenched. That control is lost upon death. Their chi rushes out and devastates the area. The body is destroyed in the process. There are many names for it. The last water, the water of regret, the Reapers' Riptide, the final flood. What do you call it? Sad, Song Yuelin whispered, lost in the reflection of the pool. Chen Haoren didn't know how long they sat there. A ripple suddenly spread through the pool, and their reflections were distorted. Song Yuelin's eyes regained their clarity, and he shook his head as if removing the last of the strange spell he was under. My apologies, young Master Chen. Song Yuan looked embarrassed. That was unseemly of me. It's fine, Song Yuelin. He wouldn't begrudge someone having a moment, even a bastard like Song Yuelin. Regardless, I've already delayed young Master Chen enough. He swept. Song Yuelin swept his hand in the chi pool. If you will. Chen Howard frowned. I'm not interested in robbing a grave. His own people back on Earth had seen their fair share of that. His situation wasn't so desperate now that he'd have to violate his strength principles for strength.
The gifting power would give him plenty of opportunities in the future. He didn't need this one. Song Yue-lin blinked in confusion, but realization dawned on his face. It's not a problem, young Master Chen. I've already checked. This morning pool belongs to a monster, not a cultivator.
So it belonged to a cultivator. There would de- so if it belonged to a cultivator, there would definitely be a problem.
It's important to you, though, isn't it?
Chen Haoren said. Song Yuelin stared at him, shocked. He looked at Chen Haoren as if he was some strange object. Right as Chen Haoren began to get worried, he he smiled. Not like his typical obnoxious ones, but smaller, more muted, but all the more significant for it.
Yes, it is important to me. He rested a hand on Chen Haoren's shoulder and nudged him forward. However, my duty is to my master is more important.
Chen Haoren stared at Song Yuelin, but all he did was shoo him forward. Tenderly, he dipped his feet in the pool. It was warm, and what felt like lightning raced up his legs. Using the edge to keep afloat, he slowly slid into the water.
It's best to submerge yourself completely, Song Yuelin said. Remember to circulate your cultivation method.
I barely have any strength in my limbs, Chen Haoren admitted. I don't know if I can swim back out. Song Yuelin placed a hand on Chen Haoren's shoulder.
Do not fear it, young Master Chen. Chi is life. It aids all beings. It will not harm you.
Chen Haoren searched Song Yuelin's face for any trace of falsehood, but he knew he wasn't lying. He could feel the truth surrounding him. He took a deep breath and let go of the edge. He sank like a stone into the deep. The pool itself was only 3 times as deep as Chen Haoren was tall, to his senses, though it might as well have been an ocean. He touched the bottom, and the lightning-like feeling was too much to bear. He opened his mouth, gasping for air, and his lungs were filled with liquid chi. Yet he did not drown. The aches and exhaustion he suffered from were washed away with the abundance of vital energy. Remembering Song Yue-lin's words, he used the Yellow Dragon River refinement. The Yellow Dragon was vivid in his mind as it swam through the deluge of chi in his meridians. The dragon feasted and grew endlessly larger. Its gluttony wasn't enough to consume all the chi, however. More spilled over and filled his body. Chen Haoren could almost feel it soaking into his cells. A transformation occurred. He could feel something being squeezed out of his body. The yellow dragon roared. Chen Haoren's chi exploded. A vortex of liquid chi formed around him. He advanced. The 6th layer. Chen Haoren jumped from the bottom of the pool, and the liquid chi rose with him. He burst out of the pool with an eruption of chi. As he landed before Song Yuelin, the chi evaporated into the air.
Congratulations on your advancement, young Master Chen.
Song Yuelin clasped his hands and bowed. Chen Haoren ignored him in favor of studying the black oil he found himself covered in. "What is this?" he asked. He sniffed it and nearly vomited. "It's so foul," he gagged.
Those would be the impurities within your body, Song Yuelin helpfully informed. It's the unhealthy residue that a person accumulates in life from their diet and environment. A cultivator can gradually expel it as they rise in cultivation, but removing it earlier will be far more beneficial to you.
Chen Haoren cycled his chi, and the filth was scoured off him with a single burst. Flexing his hands, he felt the new power the sixth layer provided. He also felt cleansed, or perhaps lighter would be the better word, like the impurities had been some kind of weight that he was now free from. He could see why the morning pools were so valued by cultivators. Chen Haoren looked back at the now empty hole in the ground. "This doesn't feel right," he said.
If not us, then it would be someone else,
Song Yuelin consoled. Chen Haoren looked at him. Song Yuelin didn't look bothered by the pool being ruined. "Can I ask why these morning pools are so important to you?" Song Yuelin hummed as he considered the question.
I just think they're nice, he finally said. For a liquid meridian realm who wouldn't otherwise have a marker of their passing, a morning pool is a wonderful honor. He smiled. If fate is kind, then I hope to have such an honor when I pass. Somewhere secluded, perhaps.
If fate was kind, Song Yuelin would have an undisturbed grave. Chen Haoran's thoughts slowed as the implications crystallized in his mind. He shook it off.
Don't worry about it, he said instead. I'll have a massive monument built when you die.
Song Yuelin laughed.
I'll thank you in advance, then.
Song Yuelin dusted his robes off.
I must say, I didn't expect today to turn out as it had. I thought we were going to lead me to some hidden ruin instead of randomly run around the mountain.
I'm still pissed at you for that, Chen Haoran reminded him. I wanted to use your help to find some gifts for Lan Fen when she left isolation training. Song Yuelin blinked at him.
Young Master Chen, why didn't you say so earlier?
Song Yuelin tapped his storage bag and a stream of liquid shadow came out of it, carrying herbs, cores, and other animal parts. The small pile was worth far more than the useless junk Song Yuelin had given him before.
I am always willing to assist young Master Chen with his romantic affairs.
Chen Haoran pinched the bridge of his nose. He didn't bother correcting Song Yuelin. When did you even get all these? I thought you said the mountain was picked clean.
We are a bit further in now, Song Yuelin pointed out, and I had plenty of time while you were doing evasion training.
Chen Haoran froze. Song Yuelin, he said slowly, did you leave me alone while I was being chased by that stampede of monsters? Song Yuelin dared to give him a thumbs up.
Not to worry, young Master Chen. I had it completely under control.
Song Yuelin! The bastard laughed at him. A full belly type of laugh that left him teary and had him killing over. Just you wait for the day I reach Liquid Meridian Realm, you bastard! Song Yuelin regained his composure.
I beg for young Master Chen's mercy, he said, wiping the tears from his eyes. As an apology, this servant will show you the power of a Liquid Meridian Realm.
Song Yuelin looked out into the distance. The barest slivers of a new day could be seen rising over the horizon. Chen Haoran felt the ground shake.
My opponent is almost here anyway.
End chapter 23. It's a shame that pool apparently wasn't good for swimming in. I like swimming. It's nice and cool in the hot days. I once saw some humans diving with big metal bags on their backs, and they disappeared underwater for quite a long time. When they came out and started barbecuing, I tried out the devices, but they didn't fit in my mouth. I guess I'll just have to live with the superior breathing capacity of a bear if I want to just float under the water. I'd still like to try out those bags, though. Do they come in bear shape? Who am I kidding? Bear racism would never allow it. Let's press on. Chapter 24. This young master wants to sleep. What do you mean a worthy opponent? Chen Haoran yelled. The shaking was getting stronger as the unknown enemy approached. Whatever it was big. It must have sensed the liquid chi evaporating.
It must have sensed the liquid chi evaporating. I imagine it'll be very angry once it gets here and sees it missed out.
Song Yuelin began to stretch. What should I do then?
Cheering for me would be nice,
Song Yuelin mused.
If I can't hold on, then you've got no chance of surviving.
Song Yuelin! Chen Haoran could feel the tremors in the ground travel up his legs and beat in his chest. His heart pumped with the cadence of the massive steps. It was almost here. The bastard chuckled.
I'm only joking, young Master Chen.
Two curved obsidian knives appeared in Song Yuelin's hands with a flash of liquid shadow.
I'm very good at what I do, after all.
The trees in front of them exploded into splinters. A great bellow forced Chen Haoren to step back. A bear stepped into view, far larger than the one that had chased him earlier. He'd seen semi-trucks smaller than the monster in front of him. Chen Haoren cautiously stretched out his sense, but immediately pulled it back as soon as he felt the enormity of the monster's energy sting him. Liquid Meridian Realm. The monster bear sniffed at him and at the air and cast bestial eyes towards the empty pool. It huffed and swung its massive head toward them. It reared back and roared. The vegetation between them was immediately flattened, and Chen Haoren was sent flying. Hello, Pope. I'll talk to you in a second. Liquid shadow wrapped around him and cushioned the worst of it, but he still cracked the tree he'd flown into. Chen Haoren could feel something hot run down his face, and he wiped it off. His hand came away bloody. His nose was bleeding. Song Yue-lin hadn't been moved at all. Even his robes were unruffled. The monster bear seemed to take that as a challenge and charged toward him. Liquid shadow spilled from Song Yue-lin and obscured his form. A paw slashed out with its claws the size of his sword. The shadows scattered and dissipated, but Song Yue-lin was nowhere to be seen. The bear abruptly roared in pain. Song Yue-lin appeared behind it and carved a line into its heel. The bear lashed out backward with the same leg. Apparently the cut hadn't been deep enough. Song Yue-lin deftly avoided the blow and left the bear another cut along its paw for the attempt. The bear reared up on its hind legs and raised its paws to the air. Chen Haoren immediately turned and ran. The bear slammed down and the earth shattered. Dust and stone blew out and covered Chen Haoren. The little paradise nurtured by the chi pool was now an impact crater with the bear triumphantly roaring in the center. Its roar was cut short when a flood of liquid shadow rose from beneath and swallowed it whole. Chen Haoren couldn't see inside nor hear anything. He'd had his suspicions that Song Yue-lin's shadows could block noise. He sighed, frustrated. The satisfaction he had from reaching the sixth layer was gone in the face of a fight where he could die just by getting close. The shadows were blown off. Whatever had happened inside, the bear had gotten the worst of it. That doesn't sound right. Its brown fur had been dyed dark with blood from the numerous wounds across its body. Song Yue-lin, by contrast, stood before the monster with nary a scratch. Chen Haoren had watched them begin their deadly game of back and forth again. The bear clearly couldn't keep up with Song Yue-lin's speed, but that same bulk prevented him from landing a lethal blow. It was a fight of attrition at this point.
Are you impressed yet, young Master Chen?
Chen Haoren reflexively swung his fist. It connected solidly with Song Yue-lin's cheek. Song Yue-lin was unfazed and merely raised an eyebrow.
Are you always like this, or is it just for me in particular?
Chen Haoren withdrew his fist and flexed his fingers. Landing that punch had hurt him more than it did Song Yue-lin. He looked back to where the monster bear was futilely trying to crush another Song Yue-lin who danced around its claws.
A clone?
He stared with wide eyes.
Since when? Just now, Song Yue-lin said. So what do you think of a Liquid Meridian Realm fight?
Impressive, humbling, infuriating. He felt many things about the fight. He was also confused. The bear isn't flooding its chi. Can a monster not do that?
Although beasts share the same cultivation realms with humans, they do not deliberately cultivate the way we do. For a beast, cultivation is an instinctual process passed down through some of their bloodlines. Beasts in the liquid meridian realm control their liquid chi through those same instincts. Thus, they have to learn to deliberately release it.
Song Yue-lin smiled when the bear screamed in rage after missing another blow.
And evidently, this beast has not.
Can you hurry it up then? I want to go to bed already. While he was physically refreshed with the chi bath he took, he wasn't any better mentally than before.
We haven't even reached the best part yet. I was going to engage the bear in intense hand-to-paw combat soon.
You promised to show me a Liquid Meridian Realm's power, not a Liquid Meridian Realm fucking around. Song Yuelin sighed.
I suppose I did.
The monster bear had finally speared Song Yuelin's clone on its claws, only for the false body to explode into liquid shadow and blind it. Song Yuelin disappeared in a burst of speed that left Chen Haoran's robes fluttering, as if sensing the danger the bear blindly lashed out. Chen Haoran blinked once and saw the bear's paws flying into the air. Bears. He blinked twice and saw its head follow. He blinked 3 times, and the bear's chest exploded in a shower of blood. He blinked 4 times, and he was suddenly picked up and accelerated far away. Amber-colored chi spilled out of the open wounds of the bear's corpse. Like a dam bursting, the corpse suddenly swelled and disintegrated. Liquid chi flooded out in a wave several times larger than the bear itself. Chen Haoran saw the air distort before he was blinded by a shockwave of chi. In his blindness, he heard the world groan under the destruction of the chi flood. He felt Song Yuelin place him down. Chen Haoran held onto him for support as he opened his eyes. If before the bear had created an impact crater with its power, now it looked like a bomb proper had gone off and scoured the area of life. In the distance, he could hear the wailing of panicked wildlife.
Young Master Chen,
Sung Yuelin said. In his hands was a bloody brown core the size of a volleyball. He cleaned the blood off with an application of chi and presented it to Chen Haoran.
For your lady wife.
Chen Haoran looked at the core and then back at Song Yuelin. Gingerly, he took it and placed it in his storage bag. You are a scary bastard, Song Yuelin, he finally said.
Thank you for the compliment, young Master Chen.
He looked at the devastation. There's no morning pool.
Indeed, what a shame,
Song Yuelin replied. Chen Haoran had the feeling he said that more for the bear than he did for them. Let's go home.
I would like to, young Master Chen.
Song Yuelin looked into the sky.
We seem to have company, however.
Chen Haoran followed his gaze and saw a giant dragonfly hovering above them. Or, rather, a dragonfly that took its name literally. It had the familiar wings and abdomen of the insect he knew on Earth. Its head, however, was quite literally dragon-shaped and possessed 2 compound insect eyes that dispassionately gazed down at them. An older man was standing on the dragonfly's back. He was clothed in a bright yellow robe with a white dragon winding across it. As he stared down at them, Chen Haoran felt a pressure weigh down on his shoulders.
Long time no see, City Lord.
Song Yuelin clasped his hands and bowed. I was wondering who was causing a ruckus so close to my city. The City Lord spoke gravely. I see now that a dog of the Chen family was responsible.
Apologies for the disturbance.
Song Yuelin smiled.
Just a simple wilderness excursion.
Do you think I will accept such an explanation? I do not.
I do not recall the Chen family's business being something we had to explain.
For the rest of the Chen family, perhaps. Chen Haoran felt a stone sink into his stomach when the City Lord nodded toward him. But what you do with that one is my business as well. End chapter 24. I feel like the story got something wrong. Why would the bear lose? I'm just going to assume the bear was tired from fighting another bear. That makes the most sense to me. Pope Badger, how are you doing today? No classes. Well, that's good to hear. Doing well, huh? I see. Would you like a recap? I can't remember the last time you were able to attend. All right, let's press on then. This chapter 25. This young master hates politics. The Golden Lily Association supervisor, Song Yui Lin, the monster bear. They were all far more powerful than Chen Haoren and had made him feel small in various ways. None, however, were able to force his head down with their presence alone. He attempted to copy Song Yuelin and show his respect. It felt like his hands were moving through molasses when he tried moving them, and he was forced to cycle his chi to prevent his bow from turning into a fall. He did not bother trying to sense the City Lord's cultivation. He knew the answer. Crystal Transformation Realm. Oh, we finally get to meet one.
I'm curious as to what you mean by that, City Lord.
Song Yue Lin, bless his soul, still looked unruffled in front of the stronger cultivator. You know what I mean.
I do not.
Song Yue Lin's smile was like a razor.
You couldn't have possibly referred to the young master of the Chen family so rudely, after all.
The City Lord raised an eyebrow. Well, Chen Chitao come himself to strike me down for the offense.
If he believes you're becoming uppity, then perhaps.
The air froze. Chen Haoren couldn't breathe. He had mouthed it off. Had mouthed off to stronger cultivators before, but he had never been so blatantly threatened one. What is your name, dog of the Chen family? It sounded like a final courtesy. Chen Haoren braced for violence. He could only hope whatever Song Yue Lin got his confidence from was enough to save their lives.
This one is known as Sung Yuelin. I have met the City Lord before.
The City Lord stopped. I remember you now. He clicked his tongue, and Chen Haoren could breathe again. 6 years ago, you were one of the Chen Chitao's hunting dogs, he said, annoyance flashing on his face. Song Yue Lin didn't react to the insult. He bowed again.
It's truly an honor to be recognized by the City Lord.
Song Yue Lin used reputation. It was super effective. Chen Haoran breathed a sigh of relief. He'd expected Song Yue Lin was important in the Chen family, and this Chen Chitao he served was probably either the leader or someone else high up. He was definitely a crystal transformation realm, at least. That only raises even more questions. The City Lord crossed his arms. Why is Chen Chitao's dog here with his son? And why was I not informed of this? What?
I came of my own accord. Song Yuelin lost his smile. It wasn't a matter worth informing the City Lord about.
You expect me to believe such a blatant lie?
It is the truth.
Does the Chen family take me for a fool? The City Lord exploded with anger. His chi rose, and Chen Haoren felt like a mountain fell atop him. Song Yuelin grabbed him before he could be crushed by the pressure and wrapped him in liquid shadow. It helped him stand, at least, but nothing else. He watched as the dragonfly beast descended lower. Song Yuelin's shoulders started to quiver with strain.
Calm yourself, City Lord,
Song Yuelin warned him. First this marriage to Lan Fen, shouted the City Lord, then the sudden acquisition of funds. The air began to distort. And now a Chen family cleaner? Do you think I can't see you Chen family plotting in my city? Chi carried his voice and raised it to a level that would have ruptured Chen Haoren's eardrums had Song Yuelin's Chi not protected him. Song Yuelin spoke over the still echoing accusation.
I assure the City Lord that the Chen family has no intention to renege on our deal.
No, I wasn't ad-libbing. That was in the text. Deal. The words rang in Chen Haoren's skull. Deal. 6 years ago, Chen Shitao and Song Yuelin met the Clear Springs City Lord. Deal. 6 years ago, young Master Chen came to live in Clear Springs City. Deal. The City Lord monitored Chen Haoren and was aware of his affairs. Deal. The City Lord and the Chen family had made a deal. Chen Haoren was a hostage. Song Yuelin narrowed his eyes. His face was deadly serious.
If the City Lord wishes for it, then I'm sure Lord Chen will be happy to explain.
It sounded like an offer, but Song Yuelin spoke it as if it was a threat. The City Lord treated it like one. He froze, his chi froze, the distortions in the air froze. Even the mountain on Chen Haoren's back paused, weighing him down. Slowly, the City Lord's face became neutral, and with it, the pressure he exuded was lifted. As if that man would explain anything to me. He huffed.
Lord Chen considers the City Lord to be a valuable ally to the Chen family, Song Yuelin replied.
Out of consideration for Chen Chitao's face, I will drop this matter. The dragonfly beast rose into the air. Know this! The palace exams are to be held in Clear Spring City soon. I will not tolerate any interruption to it. The City Lord glared at them. Not even from the Chen family. His gaze slid to Chen Haoren. You have been quiet for once. Keep it that way. With that final order, the City Lord left.
Pompous bastard,
muttered Song Yuelin. The liquid shadow covering them receded. Chen Haoren sat heavily on the ground, his legs shaking. Fuck! He buried his face in his hands. The young master wasn't exiled. He was used as a guarantee for the Chen family, which meant if the Chen family didn't uphold whatever their end of the deal was, his life was forfeit. If Chen Chitao's reputation hadn't been enough to ward off the City Lord, he really might have died just now. That was another issue. Chen Chitao was the young master's father, and was scary enough that his name alone was a threat to a crystal transformation realm. He glanced at Song Yuelin. Chen Chitao's hunting dog, the man the father sent to investigate the son. A cleaner, the City Lord had called him. An assassin. Chen Haoren felt cold. Song Yuelin smiled softly.
Don't worry about him, young Master Chen. He's too cowardly to actually do anything.
Could have fooled me, he muttered.
It's true. He's weak and he knows it, so he pretends to be tough. If it wasn't for luck, he couldn't be able to hold his head up in front of the Chen family at all with his profound rank cultivation.
Profound rank? Can't he just get a better technique? Unless Earth rank techniques were rarer than he thought, still it was good to know that the higher realms could be reached even with a lower quality cultivation method. Song Yuelin shook his head.
You can't change your cultivation method once you reach crystal transformation. The fact that he could get a better technique in the palace school proves the extent of his abilities. That he couldn't get a better technique.
Chen Haoren processed that. Palace School and Palace Exam. A school in the Empire where government officials were trained and could receive Earth rank techniques. The Palace Exam was probably hosted for admittance to the school. Did Lan Fen know about this? The City Lord warned them not to cause trouble. What would he think about Lan Fen's plans to destroy the Lan family? Chen Haoren's thoughts ground to a halt. The City Lord called Lan Fen by name. Chen Haoren's marriage to her in particular was worthy of accusation. He didn't mention the Lan family at all. Was he aware of Lan Yao's conspiracy? Why didn't he mention it then? Why didn't he accuse them of trying to form an alliance with the Lan family? Did he not consider it a problem? Did he know it wasn't? Did he know Lan Fen? Did she tell him? Chen Howard rubbed his forehead. He'd learned too much today. He'd get a headache at this rate.
Young Master Chen?
There was also Song Yue Lin to worry about. If the City Lord had really tried to kill us. Oh, I'm sorry. If the City Lord had really tried to kill us, would you have been able to stop him? Song Yue Lin gave him a thumbs up.
Of course not.
Of course not, he tiredly echoed him. And here I was hoping you had something to back up that big mouth of yours.
I apologize for making you worry, young Master Chen. However, the City Lord had to be reminded that even the dogs of the Chen family can't be insulted by the likes of him.
You did that for me?
You are the young master of the Chen family. It's only natural that I defend your honor.
Song Yue Lin looked serious, his eyes sincere. Chen Haoren couldn't help but respond to that sincerity. Song Yue Lin, you truly are a loyal servant.
Thank you, young Mas.
Is what I would say if you didn't just call me a dog. Chen Howard cut him off.
How could young Master Chen be a dog? Song Yuelin asked with a straight face. People like dogs, after all.
Chen Howard huffed a laugh. It sounded it sounded hollow to his ears. Let's get out of these damn mountains. End chapter 25. If you didn't hear Isatai, no, that wasn't ad-libbing, that was in the text. The writer does that sometimes. I don't really add anything myself unless I'm talking to someone in chat, which I also try to avoid, as you know. Oh. Dogs are nice, though, when they're not being stupidly defensive, that is. I'm not going to eat your human. That's the cougar hiding in the bushes. Go bother him about it. I'm only here for the buffet. Not that I get invited to the buffet. I suppose I am something of a serial party crasher in that sense. Moving on. Chapter 26. This young master needs a drink. Adventures were fine, but too many people who went on them took for granted having a place to come back to. Not Chen Haoren. After coming back from the mountains, he appreciated the warm bath he took. He paid his respects to the softness of his bed. He lit candles to honor the 12 hours of sleep he had gotten, and upon waking clapped his hands in thanks for the breakfast brought to his room. The maid who brought his food jumped at the sudden noise. Right, sorry about that. He pressed a gold tael into her hand and shooed her off before digging into a bowl of congee and boiled eggs. He had never been a huge breakfast guy back on Earth, but, like many things, having someone else do it for you somehow made it better. This treatment was part of the reason he tried to make taking over the identity of the young master work. Not like he would have been allowed to leave if something went wrong. He grimaced and put the congee down. It needed sauce. What happened yesterday had blown apart the illusion of safety he had been holding. Lan Fen, Song Yue Lin, and the Lan and Chen families all were potentially dangerous situations tied to the young master. What did that matter to Chen Haoren, though? He wasn't the young master. He had no connection to any of them. He stayed to take advantage of the gifting power and to use the young master's identity, but he could leave if he felt threatened. He had the money and basic knowledge he didn't have to in the beginning after all. Now, though, there was no way the City Lord would let him go while the deal with the Chen family was ongoing. Chen Haoren leaned back into his pillows. Beside him was a scattering of maps he had fetched. He traced the location of Clear Springs City. It wasn't that far from the ocean, although the Clear Springs Mountains separated the city from the coast. He knew the actual territory the City Lord controlled spread further. A city had to eat, after all. Unfortunately, the maps he had didn't mark out a border. He drummed his fingers on the map and listened to the paper crinkle. Even without knowing any of the specifics, everything Chen Haoren knew about the deal rubbed him the wrong way, starting with the fact that no one knew the reason the young master came to live in Clear Spring City. The city lord held him at arm's length as well. The fact the man didn't confront him with his accusations within the city itself was telling. A secret long-term deal going on 6 years. The city lord was weaker than the Chen family, but they needed his cooperation. Song Yue Lin had called him lucky. Chen Haoren could see the pieces line up. The Chen family was doing something in the territory of Clear Spring City and enlisted the city lord to help them. Something that had to be kept hidden. Something that required the city lord to have a hostage to ensure the Chen family held their end of the deal. Chen Haoren sighed. He didn't have enough information. He still barely knew anything about the Chen family besides the fact that they were very powerful and probably far away, given how nobody seemed to know much about them. Lan Fen, at least, wouldn't have spoken of them so casually if she knew they had a crystal transformation realms. He needed Lan Fen. He had so many burning questions to ask her, so much context only she could fill, so much danger that only she could provide security for. He hadn't forgotten about Song Yue Lin. Lan Fen's sensing and inventory space were the best defenses he had against the man. Chen Haoren cursed his foolishness. The shadows, the sneaking, the daggers, it was all so obvious, and yet it took the city lord pointing out Song Yue Lin's true nature to finally click. He had wanting nothing more than to strangle Manager Lin right now. What had he written in that fucking report that convinced Chen Qitao to send an assassin to investigate his own son? How much more did they need to learn before Song Yuelin received an order to slit his throat? Chen Haoren cursed. They almost became friends. How many times had Song Yuelin wormed his way into his target's graces like he almost did with him? He had been so confident in seeing through Song Yuelin's tricks, yet he still lowered his guard. Chen Haoren sat alone, a crumpled map in his fist and cold congee in his lap. The bed's softness had become suffocating. He needed to get out. Song Yue Lin, he spoke into the silence. Silence greeted him back. Song Yue Lin, I have some hair growth medicine here. It's not nice to joke about things like that, young Master Chen, Song Yue Lin said, appearing in a burst of shadow. I'll have you know that I'm shaved by choice. I'm sure you are, Chen Haoren replied, rising out of bed. Come on, we're going into the city today. You're inviting me? Of course, as if Song Yue Lin would actually let him go alone. At least this way he could keep an eye on him. Consider it my treat for helping me find gifts for Lan Fen. If young master insists, this servant will obey. Chen Haoren laughed. He was sure Song Yue Lin would obey many things if Chen insisted. Chen Haoren's views of Clear Spring cities were either from a carriage or in the dead of night. The books he had read called the city a popular destination for the affluent and the cultivators for its many springs and their spiritual properties. It certainly felt that way to Chen Haoren as he and Song Weilin waded through the crowds. Clear Spring City took on a style that distinctly reminded Chen Haoren of East Asian architecture back on Earth. The buildings emphasized a horizontal design, not tall exactly, but made to look tall. Sloping roofs, shingled with black tiles, curved and flared out into prominent overhangs. Little statues and reliefs of stylized warriors and beasts decorated their exteriors. Chen Haoren assumed they were charms or some kind of household god. The pedestrians came from all the walks of life. Pe- Peasants and laborers in loose-fitting hemp clothes and bumped shoulders with wealthier well-to-dos in fitted cotton. Elaborate carriages ferried silk-clad aristocrats through the teeming masses. Everyone Chen Haoren could see shared a similar base style, but the difference in details was as numerous as the people themselves. Some elegant folk had wider sleeves, some had flowers and insects embroidered in simple designs in rows of three. On some simple dressed men and women he saw chokers and armbands fashioned out of animal bone. He witnessed so many different designs and decorations he could scarcely keep track of it all. Above all, were all colorful. He didn't see a drab gray or brown in sight. Chen Howard breathed deeply, basking in the energy of the city.
Are you feeling better, young Master Chen?
He spared yet Song Yue Lin a glance. He wasn't surprised that the assassin picked up on his mood. Still, he had to be more conscious of what he let slip.
I like cities. They have a different air to them.
They do, Song Yue Lin hummed.
It's easy to consider oneself as just another face in them.
Have you been to many cities before?
Yes, both in the Empire and abroad. If young Master Chen cares for it, then I can share my humble experiences.
Anything to get Song Yue Lin talking. I would be glad to hear of it. He craned his neck, searching. He spotted it, a large blue building. The name, Drunken Immortal Pavilion, carved into a sign hanging above its double door. Over some drinks, perhaps. Chen Howard led Sung Yue Lin over to the restaurant. Lan Fen had told him about this place. It was popular among the city's elite youth and thus a must-know. Two startled door attendants ushered them into a bustling main floor. It seemed the young master's reputation preceded him even here. He wasn't worried about meeting anyone who personally knew him, though. That sort only frequented the bars and brothels of the pleasure district. The interior of the drunken immortal pavilion was divided between two floors. The main floor held the majority of tables and entertainment, while the second floor offered more secluded booths with a view of the establishment. Well-dressed youths crowded the tables and swapped gossip and laughter. A few looked his way and pointed him out and whispered warning. One even ran for the doors when he was led to the second floor. The nervous waiter held open beaded curtains, and they entered a middle-positioned booth. Below, he could see a small stage where a woman was strumming a pipa.
You have any preferences?
Song Yuelin shook his head.
I'm not a piggy drinker.
Get us something that'll go down smooth, then, he ordered. He dropped a few gold taels in the waiter's hand. And bring us all the pork dishes this place has. Song Yuelin raised an eyebrow.
Holding a grudge?
For the rest of my life. Soon the waiter returned with a green liquor that smelled like flowers. Chen Howard first poured for Song Yuelin, then for himself. He raised his cup in silent cheers before downing it. The waiter had picked a good one. Pleasant and sweet, it tasted like spring. He'd have to leave a big tip. Sir, the waiter called from outside the booth,
there is someone who would like to meet you.
Who? Was he really that unlucky that someone he knew was both here and wanted to talk to him? The beaded curtains flew open as a white-haired girl with furious golden eyes strode into the booth.
Chen Haoren, she said, I heard you had come. Something you wished to tell me.
Her hair fluttered with a subtle press of chi. Chen Haoren recognized her. She was the mouthy girl at the wedding and the cause of it all. Lan Yao had come to find him. Across the table, Song Yuelin had already disappeared.
Why do you not speak, Chen Haoren? You had such beautiful words from my brother.
Lan Yao crossed her arms. Chen Haoren reached out his sense. Chi realm ninth layer. He poured himself another cup. End chapter 28. Something tells me that we won't be getting to hear about those other places Song Yuelin has been. Chapter 27. This young master has had enough. Hello, Lan Yao. Chen Haoren swirled the alcohol in his cup.
So the prodigal young Master Chen can speak after all,
Lan Yao mocked.
This is not what I want to hear, however.
Were you tracking me? It was the only explanation he could think of how she found him so fast.
Don't overestimate your worth. I was merely in the area when I learned you decided to grace the public with your presence.
She kicked out the chair Song Yuelin had vacated and seated herself.
Let us have a chat before you go running off back to your hole.
Let me eat at least. With astounding bravery, the waiter entered with the booth with plates stacked high with meat. Chen Haoren tipped him a gold tael and motioned to the liquor bottle.
Have another bottle ready for when I leave.
Lan Yao arched an eyebrow at the entirely meat-filled table.
Just pork.
They deserve it. Chen Howard set aside his cup. While his cultivation probably raised his tolerance, there was no need for the risk. Not that he was afraid of Lan Yao. Even with a ninth layer cultivation, the best it could be was profound rank. Unlike the other crazy bastards he met recently, he could defend himself against her. He smiled bitterly at the thought.
Do you find this amusing, Chen Howren?
Her disdain morphed into disgust when he had upended a whole sauce dish over his pork chops. Not at all, he replied. I'm incredibly unamused.
How appropriate, then, that I feel the same.
Lan Yao scratched her nail along the table and peeled up wood. Whatever it is you're here for, I didn't do it.
Have you not done? Communicate? Beat my brother? Defy me?
Every accusation was punctuated with a long screeching scratch that carved a deep furrow into the table. Chen Howren glanced at his cup. Your brother had it coming. Lan Yao's arm whipped across the table and sent his cup flying over the railing. Chen Howren heard it shatter below, an angry voice started cursing, and Lan Yao loomed over him.
You are treading a very dangerous line, Chen Howren.
Are you threatening me? He flared his chi in warning. Lan Yao snorted derisively.
So you use those cultivation supplements in advance. Do you think a mere sixth layer is enough to face me, though?
Yes, but he wasn't looking to fight if he could help it. He'd given her the impression of being uncooperative. He had an appearance he needed to keep. It would be better to start unwinding it down. You'll get Lan Fen when I'm done with her. My family has sent a liquid meridian realm over already, and he's been a pain in the ass to deal with. Chen Howren withdrew his chi and looked away.
All the more reason to transfer her quickly, then.
And what will I tell my family when my new bride has disappeared? They've already got word of her.
I am confident you can make something up. I trust in your experience.
For 15,000 silver taels? Forget it.
What do you want?
Chen Howren smiled. Give me more time with her. Lan Yao laughed at him.
Have you really become so addicted to her? To think that bitch could charm even a pig like you?
Chen Howren drummed his fingers along the table. Watch what you say. Lan Fen had told him the young master wasn't the kind of man who could stomach insults to his person. Chen Howren, on the other hand, was very good at letting crap like that slide right off him.
I wonder what she had to do. I always knew that whore had it in her. I wonder if she's despairing that she found out her skill too late.
Lan Yao, the tapping of his fingers sounded harsh to his ears. Your answer.
Lan Yao smiled sweetly at him. She must have wrapped you around her finger. Do you think you're special? I know Lan Fen very well, and had she known how good she was between sheets, all the men in the Lan family would have protested her marriage.
For the first time since she barged into the booth, Chen Howren properly looked at Lan Yao. The similarities to Lan Fen were apparent at first glance. Vibrant white hair, burning golden eyes, and long lethal fingers. That was also where their similarities ended. Lan Yao was the princess to Lan Fen's general, beautiful like a flower in bloom. He looked past the petals and saw the thorns Lan Fen had spoken of so long ago in the somber office. Lan Yao's smile became something ugly.
You have had enough fun, Chen Howren. Return Lan Fen. I will make sure you are suitably compensated.
You really hate her, he quietly said.
Of course, strutting around like she was superior to everyone else, as if I wasn't just as talented as she was. Heaven was kind when it crippled her.
Fitting that you had to rely on heaven just to equal her. Lan Yao froze. Her smile was taut. Her chi rose with the promise of violence.
I am better than her,
she forcefully ground out. Are you? Chen Howren mused. Her palm slapped his chest. He felt bile rise in his throat as the blow knocked him off his feet and into the air. He crashed into a table on the main floor. Its original laughing occupants scattered, screaming. The soft music from the pipa player abruptly stopped and a harsh silence fell over the lively restaurant. Lan Yao proudly looked down at him from the second floor.
Well, she proclaimed, am I?
Chen Howren laid in a wreckage of splinters and shattered porcelain, his chest heavy with pain. It had just been a simple palm strike she hit him with. He had seen no technique or anything indicating harmonization. His Earth rank cultivation should have put him at least around an 8th layer profound rank. He'd killed a 9th layer before. The difference shouldn't have been so large.
Since when did the Land family have an Earth rank method?
He blurted out the thought as soon as it came to him. Around him, he could hear them murmuring of their audience, "Spike." Lan Yao schooled her triumphant expression.
To think you would need to come up with excuses for your weakness, Chen Howren.
She recovered well, but he had seen it in that split second. Shock. She jumped overhead and landed at the entrance doors.
This is the difference in our cultivation, she said, flaring her chi. It would be wise not to offend me further.
After making sure she left, Shenhaueren rose and brushed himself off. Her hit would leave a bruise, but hadn't otherwise broken anything.
Rough luck with the ladies, young Master Chen.
Song Yuelin appeared next to him. He took a sip from his cup. Chen Howren very carefully did not react with instinctual violence. He was improving.
Stuff it. You saw that too, right? Your flight? Yes, it was quite the beautiful arc.
Her cultivation, Chen Howren ground out. He pulled a wet noodle from his hair.
There's no way I just got my shit rocked by a profound rank. I wouldn't know, young Master Chen. That would require me knowing what your rank your cultivation method is.
Don't play dumb. Song Yue Lin blinked innocently.
How would I know what you haven't told me?
Chen Howren was in no mood for Song Yue Lin's games. Your sense is better than mine. Can't you sense her cheese quality? He doubted Song Yue Lin would do it, but he had to at least try. This information was too important.
No, he shook his head. A cultivator can sense the quality of their own chi because of how intimately related it is to them. That same can't be said for sensing the quality of another. You can only feel it once the chi is used on you.
The question is, why did she use it on me? With the way Lan Yao had done damage control immediately after it was clear she didn't want it known she had an Earth rank method, why use it on him, though? Did she not expect him to reveal it, or was it something the young master had previously known?
I wouldn't overthink it, young Master Chen, Sung Yue Lin said. The stronger a cultivator becomes, the less tolerant they are of any slight against them. I would assume that's what happened here was similar.
Could it really be that simple? Lan Yao really exposed critical information just to put him in his place? Someone who had plotted so deviously around Lan Fen and her own family was that careless? If that were true, what did that say about Yisong Yue Lin then? He had certainly been rude to the other man before. Had he really not slighted him? Sir, a shaking voice said, stirring him from his thoughts. The waiter before him nervously came forward and held out a ceramic bottle. Your liquor.
Thank you.
He took the bottle graciously.
What will you do now, young Master Chen?
Chen Howren opened the bottle. Now? He took a swig. Now I'll train and drink. And wait for Lan Fen. End chapter 27. My personal preference is usually towards lady general characters over the princess types. Princesses tend to be extremely passive in their stories, not very interesting. Of course, it's not uncommon that a general is quietly turned into a helpless woman just in order to allow a male lead to shine, which is a horrible waste in my opinion. Anytime I see a strong woman being turned into a hapless something or other, it's quite disappointing and a waste of good character. Oh, the next chapter isn't a chapter. Interlude. The Valkyrie. To thrive in this world requires blood. Rely on your own and spill that of others. Remember this, my daughter. Her father's blood spilled non-stop as he told her that. She had sworn by that same blood that she understood. As it turned out, her father had only been half right in the end. The so-called isolation room of Chen Haoren's estate only served the name because it was an isolated room. In all other respects, it paled compared to where she had trained for years, with it lacking even the most superficial chi-gathering formation or spirit vein. Lan Fen was forced to rely on the natural ambient chi and the cultivation supplements she had both retrieved from her hidden cache and received from Chen Haoren. It would suffice. Lan Fen breathed in chi and felt it water the desert her body had become. A storm grew in her meridians. In her vision, chi boiled and writhed until lightning flashed and struck the foreign energy. In the lightning's wake, metal white chi sprung like new life. Under the lightning's ceaseless strikes, a new world was hammered out of the raw materials she provided. A world both familiar and unknown to her. First layer. The hurdle that had stalled so many would-be cultivators was easily cleared. Lan Fen was not content and swallowed a pill to feed the process. Being so completely drained of chi had inspired a weakness in her that she had never felt before, that she would never feel again. There had been benefits to doing it, however, even beyond the obvious rewards. 9 layers of cultivation had their mark on her body, and that starving echo of greatness was further refined as it greedily accepted a superior chi. Mind and body worked in accord to guide chi down a well-worn path. The wall of the second layer loomed.
So you've become a speck of dust with some chi. I hope you're not feeling proud or something.
The vision ended. Lan Fen didn't let her frustration show. It would only embolden him. She opened her eyes to face the consequences of her decision. He lazily lounged in the air, floating just high enough that she was forced to look up at him and see his arrogant expression. The man could be considered conventionally attractive if it weren't for being ghostly white and see-through.
Do you have something you want to say, Ant?
And an asshole. He called himself the White Tyrant, the far-gone conqueror of a bygone era. Lan Fen ignored his taunting.
Are you bored, White Tyrant?
Am I bored? She asks, he mocked. I spent 2,000 years trapped in that stupid ring, and what do I get when I finally get out? An ant who's barely stubbed heaven's toe, let alone defied it. Do you think I'm entertained?
I will endeavor to meet your expectations.
You aren't worthy of my expectations.
The White Tyrant sneered. Lan Fen gently brushed her hand against the plain silver ring hanging on her neck. She had known when she obtained it that it once belonged to a powerful cultivator. She hadn't expected that the ghost of its former owner still resided within it. She had considered herself fortuitous, especially as both the ring and the White Tyrant proved useful in defeating the thugs sent after her. That good mood only lasted until the ghost opened his mouth.
They just don't make cultivators like they used to. Back in my day, where children were born in the first layer, you know. If they weren't ninth layer by the time they turned 16, then they were trash.
She had been 16 when she entered the 9th layer, though she knew if she mentioned it he'd find something else to nitpick. Lan Fen thought back to the stories of immortals she was raised on, the tales of wisdom, cunning, and miraculous acts. Much like her family, it seemed the White Tyrant existed to spoil such fantasies. A casual thought saw a bone-white flower appear in her hand. She didn't have time to waste. Lan Fen was 6 years old and had just entered the first layer when her father scoured her senses with the grandness of his liquid meridian realm cultivation. My daughter, he hushed her, wiping her tears of pain away, you will adapt in time. Second layer. As easily passed as the first, though it exhausted the bulk of her cultivation supplements. The White Tyrant interrupted her meditation once again.
There's a liquid meridian realm in the manor, he said, yawning. 8th layer, earth rank cultivation.
Are they a threat?
Lan Fen sat up, alert. Even as a remnant of his former self, the White Tyrant's sensory ability was, for lack of a better word, tyrannical.
About as annoying as trash that gets stuck in your throat.
The white tyrant picked at his spectral teeth.
Looks like the moron's speaking to him.
Lan Fen calmed. Ridiculous evaluation aside, if Chen Haoren knew about it, then it was most likely fine. Perhaps the cultivator was from the Chen family? If so, Lan Fen would have to reevaluate what she knew of them. There wasn't a liquid meridian realm in Clear Spring City that had an earth rank cultivation. Yet, a still cold part of her mind reminded. Or perhaps Chen Haoren had pulled the liquid meridian realm from the same place he kept the rest of his inexplicable wealth. Lan Fen put aside her ridiculous evaluation and took out the gold refinement pills. Still not fast enough. The Lan family's only profound rank techniques were wood element. The lion's share of the resources were thus claimed by wood spirit roots. Any member of the family unlucky enough to have been blessed by the other elements had to fight that much harder for resources. So Lan Fen fought, like her father did for her. Third layer, 10 gold refinement pills. The entire stock was used up just to bring her to the third layer. Had this been before that many profound rank pills would have seen her go from the second layer to the fourth, almost reaching the cusp of the fifth. Lan Fen marveled at the metal white chi coursing through her meridians.
You better appreciate me, you ant,
The white tyrant demanded.
The first spark of the primordial world isn't something trash like you could ever get their hands on.
Lan Fen had to agree with him. A heaven rank cultivation method was something destined to be out of her reach no matter how she fought. Just the chance of attaining one had been enough for her to gamble and let the silver ring drain her cultivation.
Why are you still not gratefully worshipping me, ant?
At what cost, though?
Absolutely ungrateful, just like everyone else on this miserable world. I wasted my precious time to return to this shithole of a home planet to do some good deeds, and I never even got any thanks for it.
It wasn't the first time the white tyrant complained about coming back to this world. In an effort to learn more about him, she tried finding records left from the time he had returned. In an almost unanimous consensus by historians, that century was widely regarded as an unprecedented age of chaos, going by what little evidence survived. She took out a jade bottle and dropped a solid gold pearl of a pill into her hand. Lan Fen had thought she had grown used to the shocking value of the items Chen Haoren so casually pressed into her hands. 10 Earth-rank gold transmutation pills just abused her of that notion. He clearly had his own fortuitous encounter, though the nature of it was still a mystery to her. Some kind of treasure space, perhaps? Whatever the case, for his sake, she hoped it was less annoying than her own. Lan Fen was 12 and stood at the sixth layer when her father returned a dead man. He had used his authority to organize an expedition using the family's power. Had it succeeded, he would have returned with a proper cultivation method for her. The expedition failed, and her father returned the only survivor. Out of respect for his previous achievements and for siring a genius, the Lan family patriarch allowed her father to bleed to death instead of dying by his hand. Fourth layer. Even with the large energy demands of practicing a heavy heaven rank method, she only required 4 gold transmutation pills to ascend. A bottleneck stymied any further progress, however. Even her height grade spirit root couldn't process so many cultivation resources in so little time. Unfortunately, this type of bottleneck was also the simplest to alleviate.
I cannot believe it. You got stopped by a resource bottleneck. In my era, if any master had a student that's stupid, they'd give them 100 lashes.
Lan Fen stood and, with a thought, entered the silver ring's pocket space. As a spatial treasure, her old storage bag couldn't compare to the silver ring at all. In size alone, the ring offered a space the size of Chen Haoren's manor, and that was only the portion available to her. Much of the ring's interior was shrouded in a defensive fog that she still couldn't pass through. A project for when she entered the Liquid Meridian realm. Lan Fen stretched out a hand and a plain iron sword flew into her waiting palm. She felt the race of water element chi lingering on it.
In the general relationship of the five elements, metal was born by earth and collected water. White chi raced like lightning through a diligently memorized pattern. The iron sword glowed blue-white. Canyon carving sword. The river-like sword energy rushed out in a sharp flash and disappeared into the fog. If the bottleneck wouldn't move, then she would just have to make it. Canyon carving sword.
This is terrible. You were supposed to be strong enough to pass the fog. I had trials set up and everything. You're so weak, though, I had to pass them along early.
Canyon carving sword.
Not like I was supposed to be here to pass them. Not like I was supposed to be here to pass them on to you. I was meant to pass on my legacy. I wasn't supposed to be passed down with it.
Canyon carving sword.
Leave an inheritance, they said. Sow some good karma, they said. Look how I ended up.
Canyon carving sword.
Oi, Aunt! I didn't wait for 2,000 years for an inheritor just to watch them practice a shitty sword technique.
Is there an issue, White Tyrant?
Lanfen paused and wiped the sweat from her brow. In the days since she'd started practicing the canyon carving sword, she could feel the bottleneck loosen up under the constant exertion of chi.
The issue is that you're wasting your time practicing that moron's crappy sword technique instead of learning the heaven-splitting claw.
I am simply focusing my energy where it would be more appropriate.
Listen, Aunt, right now you're not even worth one of my fingernails. It's already going to take you a year to.
The White Tyrant's voice trailed off as Lanfen held up 5 fingers of vicious metal chi. She slashed the air, and they watched the rending claws of energy scream into the distance. The white fog became turbulent with their passing before settling down.
When did you learn that?
3 weeks ago.
Lanfen sat down, exhausted. It wasn't easy to use a heaven-rank technique after using the canyon carving sword so many times.
You've only had your cultivation back for 2 weeks.
As I said, if you would like me to focus on your techniques, then give me something worth my focus.
Okay, maybe you can match the tip of my finger. That still doesn't explain why you're practicing Earth-rank trash.
The White Tyrant narrowed his eyes.
Don't tell me you're doing it for that moron.
He has aided me. I only seek to return the favor.
You're joking. Morons like him exist to be exploited, and you already know his help isn't out of any goodwill. He's using you.
That was true. He had been using her since they first met. She knew this ever since she'd heard his ridiculous story. Even now she didn't know what to make of the man. Was he Chen Halrin with missing memories, or was he some new man altogether? He had been so frustratingly vague on the point, and his actions only served to confuse her further. He was so natural at playing his role, and yet so ignorant of everything surrounding it. He was so blessed with valuables and so free with handing them away. She was not blind that there was some higher purpose to his actions, that she held more meaning to him than just an ally, and yet
You were the one who reminded me to honor him for staying to help me fight.
the White Tyrant clicked his tongue in annoyance.
Do what you want.
Lanfed stood on shaky legs. Her chi flowed in the canyon carving sword's pattern, but the sword remained silent. She raised the blade and swung. Unbidden, a memory from the past came to mind. Her father had taken her on a trip to the edge of Clear Springs territory, to the mouth of a great river where it met the ocean. She remembered feeling the force of the rushing water in her bones as it spilled into the sea. Her father had taken her atop his shoulders when the sun began to dip over the horizon. It was the first and last time she had ever seen him look so peaceful. She felt her chi rush into the sword. The sword did not glow, but it did not need to. It had become a river. It had become that river. Lanfen spun, flowed, and rushed in an impromptu sword dance. Every swing was punctuated by a harsh crash as the river met an imaginary sea, as her father met the land family. Canyon carving sword. Her last slash carved through that ocean, carved through her bottleneck, and soon enough would carve through the land family. She promised. Fifth layer. Lanfen left isolation training. End interlude The Valkyrie. I don't know if the solution to a mystery is worth much when the culprit gets bored and tells you how they did it. Though I guess Lan Fen's cultivation source isn't the most important focus of the story. Still, there might have been a better way to deliver that than just using a viewpoint chapter. Chapter 28. This young master was waiting. It had been surprisingly peaceful ever since his confrontation with Lan Yao, for a given definition at least. He still had multiple swords of Damocles hanging above his head at any given moment, but the one he most expected to cut him immediately hadn't. He wondered if it had to do with how their meeting ended. With Lan Yao skillfully diffused any Whilst Lan Yao skillfully diffused any potential rumor about her cultivation, they still had a large audience. For someone with so many secrets to hide and so many people to hide them from, Lan Yao probably wasn't willing to move until she was sure she didn't have any eyes on her. Chen Haoren was thus left with copious free time he used to worry about the rest of his problems. Like how Song Yue Lin kept plastering him across the training field, Chen Haoren had been caught off guard again by yet another vicious backhand that knocked him so hard into the earth he left behind a trench.
We should end it here today, young Master Chen.
Song Yue Lin casually brushed non-existent dust from his hand.
Got tired of slapping me?
Never, was the immediate response.
However, I believe your lady wife is about to exit her seclusion training.
Song Yue Lin scarcely finished speaking when Chen Haoren shot up and raced off. The bastard laughed.
You certainly seem eager.
Of course he was. Lan Fen represented a layer of safety he desperately needed right now. Not to mention the fact that she was the only person who knew the politics of Clear Spring City well enough to navigate the tangle he found himself wrapped in. As they approached the isolation room, Chen Haoren sensed what Song Yue Lin did, a rising mass of qi spearing into the air. Suddenly, the qi shuddered and vanished, and Chen Haoren was left blindly reaching for any indication it existed. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Song Yue Lin frown.
Did something happen?
He had confidence in Lan Fen, but he couldn't help but get nervous whenever young Song Yue Lin stopped smiling. Song Yue Lin hesitated before speaking.
It should be fine. It would be best to wait for your lady wife to come out on her own.
Chen Haoren stopped a few paces before the door and quickly dusted himself off. Song Yuelin, on the other hand, stuffed a bouquet of moonflowers into his arms.
Best of luck, young Master Chen.
Song Yuelin saluted before disappearing.
What?
Chen Haoren looked at the deep blue hue of the moonflowers.
Aren't these from the chi pool?
Song Yuelin didn't answer him. When did he even have the time? Was he really that bored fighting the bear? Chen Haoren discarded his speculations as the door opened and revealed Lan Fen. She strode out to meet him with her head held high. Seeing her confidence, he couldn't help but reach out with his sense. No cultivation. He knew better, but he still couldn't help but feel disappointed. There was no need to show it, though. He handed Lan Fen the moonflower bouquet.
Congratulations on finishing your training.
Lan Fen gracefully received the flowers.
Thank you, she said. I will treasure them.
She said that, and yet the reward he was expecting never came. He guessed Lan Fen wasn't in the mood to be accepting gifts. She reached into her robes and handed him a gold tael.
I have failed to meet your expectations. Thank you for the blessing.
Chen Haoren stared at the tael. He reached his hand out and placed it in Lan Fen's, wrapping the tael between their palms. A single gold tael. To others, it might look like a lucky charm. To Chen Haoren, in front of the isolation room, it signified a threat. Her meaning was clear. He felt relieved that Lan Fen was aware of Song Yuelin's presence. Any worries he had about the man being undetectable even for her incredible senses were laid to rest. Chen Haoren smiled.
We should continue this in bed.
They crashed through his bedroom door like snarling beasts. In the midst of their pawing and clawing, Chen Haoren had the presence of mind to slap the door closed behind them.
His bed creaked under their weight when they slammed into it. Felt Lan Fen's fingers trail across his neck like a row of daggers. He looked into her golden eyes, but they were looking somewhere beyond him. Unable to draw her gaze, he unconsciously looked down at her own neck. A silver necklace wrapped around her throat and disappeared in her robe. He snapped his eyes away, and they continued their act. The bed shifted and groaned with their movements. Unintelligible grunting filled the air. It was animalistic. It was ugly. Golden Eyes finally deigned to recognize him. He retracted his sense, Lan Fen whispered. Nosy bastard that he was, it seemed Song Yuelin had some decency at least. He extricated himself from Lan Fen and rubbed his neck. Sorry, I didn't have a better idea how to talk without him listening. Lan Fen sat up on the bed and cracked her neck. Who is he? Straight to business, then. His name is Song Yuelin. He's a Chen family assassin sent to investigate me. Lan Fen frowned. An assassin? Manager Lin sent a report to the Chen family. You're probably next on his list to investigate. That makes no sense, though. Nothing that you've done is worth sending an assassin. The situation, Chen Howren hesitated, has become more complicated. I'm a hostage to the City Lord. What? The Chen family and the City Lord have made some kind of deal together. That's the reason I'm here in Clear Springs City. Do you know anything about this? No, Lan Fen said, startled. Where did you even learn this? From the City Lord himself. He confronted us in the wilderness. He seemed to think the Chen family was plotting something. He mentioned you by name as well. He drummed his fingers along his leg. Are you acquainted with him? I was a captain in the city guards before losing my cultivation. The city lord recognized my potential and has tried to recruit me into government service ever before. That explained why Lan Fen carried herself the way she did. She really was a leader. I'm assuming that the palace exams are for then? That's what the palace exams are for then? The city lord was worried we would muck them up somehow. Yes, they are meant to select talented individuals to join the palace school in the imperial capital. Students there are trained to become the future officials of the empire. What are you going to do then? Clear Spring City is hosting the palace exams. We already been warned by the city lord not to cause any problems. You mean you have been warned? Chen Howard narrowed his eyes in thought. You think the city lord won't do anything if he knows it's your plan? I know he will be more than willing to look the other way once he sees the Lan family being targeted.
Politics. Lethal politics. The one thing he wished he'd left behind on Earth. It was good to know an angry city lord wouldn't come crashing down on his head, though.
Speaking of the Lan family, I had a little scuffle with Lan Yao. Are you aware that her cultivation is better than profound rank? Are you all right?
Don't worry, I wasn't hurt. Besides his pride. Lan Fen arched an eyebrow. Clearly she didn't believe him.
To answer your question, yes, I am aware she possesses an earth rank method. My fall combined with her rise gave her the influence she needed to have me sold off.
Lan Fen knew she had known for a while too, which meant she had taken Lan Yao's superior cultivation into account when making her plans. Chen Howren felt all the pieces he'd been acquiring since he met Lan Fen slowly slot into place.
Lan Yao wants me to hand you over, he said. I think the reason she sold you off was so she could get her hands on you without the Lan family knowing.
Lan Fen rested her head in her hand in thought.
That confirms some of my own suspicions, she murmured.
Suspicions she seemed to be in no hurry to tell him about.
Did something go wrong while you were training?
He couldn't hold the question in anymore.
I was unsure what the situation with the liquid meridian realm was, so I decided it would be better to hide it.
Lan Fen showed him a small smile.
I have successfully reached the 5th layer.
Chen Howard felt the sudden grip of tension holding him fall loose. He wasn't foolish enough to believe it would be enough to protect him from Song Yuelin, but just the thought of Lan Fen restoring some of her power instilled confidence. At the very least, even if all she had was a mortal rank cultivation, a 5th layer Lan Fen was still more dangerous than he was. Case in point, she could completely hide her cultivation from both him and Song Yue Lin.
I guess you're going to start attacking the Lan family now.
Lan Fen nodded in agreement.
I am? How do you plan to expose the patriarch then?
Lan Fen froze. Burning golden eyes pinned his gaze like a hawk.
What makes you say that?
To Chen Haoren, it sounded more like
How did you know that?
couldn't help but the smirk that crossed his face. It was bad, but he really did take too much joy in being proven right.
That's your plan, after all. You're going to expose the fact that the Lan family patriarch isn't of peak liquid meridian realm.
End chapter 28. It took me a minute to figure out how he figured that out. I'm guessing that the patriarch also switched to whatever earth method that Lan Yao has. That obviously lowered his cultivation again, so that he was no longer at the peak. Is hmm. If no one needs anything, I think I'll press on. I have 2 chapters left. It's we're going to run a bit longer than the usual 2 hours I do. I'm not actually sure what the appropriate time for reading is. I know people have limited time, and I don't want to make these too long to listen to as a VOD. Do you have an opinion? That's fine. I'll just press on. Chapter 29. This young master really doesn't deserve this. 2 to 3 hours is good. Okay, that's good. It had been a bold guess on his part, but one that Chen Haoren considered well reasoned. The gap between the Chi realm and the Liquid Meridian realm was too large to cross, even for Lan Fen. So, when there were only so many ways she could hurt the Lan family, what better way than exposing a weakness? Lan Yao, revealing her Earth rank cultivation, had been the final piece he needed to make sense of the suspicions he'd been holding ever since the Gold Lily auction.
Is there a reason you want to tell me this?
Lan Fen said. She stretched out her fingers and clawed at the sheets. Thankfully, she didn't put any real force in it.
What do you gain? I promised to help you destroy the Lan family. I'd like to be more involved in doing that. Why? Your material support has been plenty.
It was, but it wasn't enough.
I want to become valuable to you. What?
Lan Fen looked at him with wide eyes.
Recent events have reminded me just how alone I am.
Lan Fen was the only person he could count on his side because of him and not some previous relationships with the young master.
I'd like to become proper partners with you.
Chen Haoren held out his hand.
If you'll let me.
She stared at his outstretched hand and made no move to take it.
Assuming I agree, what more could you actually do?
A test. It was a fair question. There wasn't anything he could do that Lan Fen couldn't do better. But that didn't mean she could do everything.
You won't reveal your recovery until you reach the 9th layer.
Chen Haoren said it as fact.
Any actions you'll be taking against the Lan family will be in secret. That doesn't mean there's nothing to be done out in the public sphere.
He motioned to himself.
I'll be your public face, the one who can say and act against the Lan family openly in ways your servants can't. My confrontation with Lan Yao already planted the seeds of rumors, and since I'm the City Lord's hostage, he won't just sit by and watch the Lan family take action against me.
Eagle eyes roved up and down his body as if they meant to flay his skin and peer inside his red skeleton for any dishonesty. He did not know what she saw, but Lan Fen was blank-faced when she finally looked at his hand again. He stubbornly resisted the temptation to wilt back. He could fail here. Slowly, hesitatingly, Lan Fen reached out and grasped his hand. Relief coursed through him as they firmly shook hands. Or rather, as he firmly shook her hand. Lan Fen's grip was surprisingly weak in return, and she looked more bewildered than anything. Releasing her grip, Lan Fen glanced at her palm before looking back at him.
There's something you must expect in return. I'll hear it. If you could save my life in the future, that would be appreciated.
Her eyes sharpened.
Are you that threatened by the assassin?
He sighed.
Him, the city lord, who knows which one will fall on my head first? Although I do have some thoughts about appeasing the Chen family that I can try now that you're out of isolation training.
Lan Fen mimicked his sigh, though hers was more annoyed than exhausted.
Why does it feel like every time I enter seclusion, something dangerous occurs?
Something dangerous occurs to me, you mean?
I'm not looking forward to your third round of isolation training.
She laughed.
I will endeavor to make it quick for your sake.
Lan Fen rose from the bed and started roughing her robes so that they would look carelessly put on.
Will you introduce me to this assassin? I'll warn you now, he's very annoying. You're probably going to be his newest project for the next few weeks. If it's up to you if you want to reveal your cultivation. Not right away. It would be better to let him pretend he found out on his own.
He couldn't help snickering. The thought of Song Yue Lin getting played like that was just too good.
I love it. That being said, we'll need some more evidence if we want to fool Song Yue Lin into thinking something actually happened here.
Chen Howren bared his neck.
You think you can scratch me?
They had reconvened in his office. Lan Fen had neatly changed into a pale green dress and looked every bit the respectable noble lady. Chen Howren, meanwhile, slouched in his chair and tried very hard not to touch his neck. Peeking out over his collar and trailing down his back were 5 angry red lines. He wasn't sure who was more surprised, Lan Fen at how tough his skin had gotten, or himself when she still managed to scratch him anyway. He didn't think she could actually do it. Song Yue Lin, of course, was nowhere to be seen, but Chen Howren didn't need Lan Fen's sense to know he was watching. Chen Howren gestured to the empty space on his left.
Lan Fen, I'd like to introduce you to Song Yue Lin.
He waited.
He's a bastard,
He added as an afterthought. Being the petty bastard that he was, Song Yue Lin appeared to the right instead.
Greetings, Lady Fen. It is an honor to finally meet you.
He clasped his hands and bowed.
I am Manager Song Yue Lin.
He waited.
I am a bastard,
He added as an afterthought. Lan Fen, for her part, only raised an eyebrow. Gracefully she rose and returned the bow.
The honor is mine, Manager Song. Thank you for taking care of Master Chen while his wife was indisposed. It was a difficult task, but unfortunately I was not able not to embarrass myself,
Song Yue Lin boasted. He observed Lan Fen for a brief moment. A shining smile bloomed on his face.
I must say, though, Lady Fan, the rumors do not do your beauty justice, no matter how our young Master Chen has fallen so madly in love.
Chen Howren rubbed his eyes. Did Lan Fen's eyebrow just twitch?
This Lan Fan beseeches Manager Song to not give credit to such exaggerated rumors.
Lan Fen neutrally replied.
I must beg your apology then, my lady, because this Song Yue Lin has filled his head with nothing but exaggerated rumors.
Song Yue Lin wistfully sighed.
Looking at the wild and passionate love between you has revealed to me the truth.
Lan Fen's face was carefully blank.
Much appreciated, Manager Song.
Chen Howren didn't like where this was going.
They were so outrageous, my lady. Can you believe they claimed you wore a white veil to your wedding ceremony? How barbaric. There were even some dastardly mouths within these very walls that accused you of never sharing young Master Chen's bed. Clearly false.
Song Yue Lin wiped away an imaginary tear. I must say, I'm really quite envious seeing a romance so full of youth, he said, sniffing loudly. I'm sure the rest of the Chen family will be as well. Young Master Chen has been so useless for such a long time. Very useless, Lan Fen agreed. Her face was practically carved from stone. Chen Howren would only have to hand her a torch and a tablet to make a proper statue out of her. So,
Song Yue Lin said, calming down.
We were expecting a child.
The statue cracked.
You really are quite annoying,
Lan Fen ground out between clenched teeth. Song Yue Lin laughed. Chen Howren dropped his hand onto his desk and sighed. Did Song Yue Lin have some kind of fucking superpower when it came to irritating others? Was all that necessary?
My apologies, young Master Chen, Lady Fan. An old dog is quite fond of his tricks.
Chen Howren thought an old dog was lucky he was too strong to be neutered.
Regardless, I didn't call.
Oh, regardless, I didn't call you here just to fool around. There's business to attend to. Once he made sure he had both their attention, he continued. I've decided the time is right to strike at the Lan family. Song Yue Lin raised his hand.
So, young Master Chen, I thought you said we weren't here to fool around.
I'm being serious. Thanks to my confrontation with Lan Yao, we have a prime springboard to spread damaging rumors about the Lan family. Song Yue Lin raised his hand again.
Except Lan Yao nipped that in the bud while you were picking noodles out of your hair.
I figured that was how it went, Lan Fen said. Chen Howren carefully ignored how the back of his neck flushed with heat. The spark is still there. All it needs is for us to fan it.
Who is this us? Sung Yuelin looked around. You do recall that I'm staying out of your feud with the Lan family, correct?
Just make sure the City Lord doesn't lose himself to paranoia and flatten me, Chen Howren snapped. You can do that much at least, right? Song Yue Lin smirked carefreely.
If that is young Master Chen's command, this servant can only obey.
Chen Howren snorted at the obvious lie. Song Yue Lin blinked his eyes innocently.
That still leaves the question as how you intend to turn the rumors on your thrashing by Lan Yao into an advantage. Gossip tends to favor respectable people like her.
Chen Howren swore he would ruin that man one day.
So if that is the case, Lan Fen interjected, the solution is rather obvious. Do tell, Lady Fen.
Lan Fen smiled.
We must make Chen Howren a respectable person as well.
End chapter 29. Well, that may be harder than they intended. Young masters aren't known for their good reputations. Bears are known for their good reputations. Good and violent, and big, and hungry. Though I'll tell you all the secrets since you're here. When you hear a bear making a noise, that isn't deep and low pitched. It's usually a distress noise. We don't want park rangers coming after us because the humans were around us. That's not our fault. We live here. Find your own forest. Without bears. You like dogs. There's a nice forest full of wolves somewhere for you. Last chapter for the day. Chapter 30. This young master had a day. The noble patrons of the Drunken Immortal Pavilion were doubtlessly enjoying themselves until Chen Howren kicked in the doors to the establishment. The sound echoed into the dining hall and drew attention from both levels. The music stopped with an obnoxious twang. An awkward silence fell over the restaurant as they once again beheld the forms of Chen Howren and Song Yue Lin. A waiter rushed over, and Chen Howren recognized him as the one who served them last time. "Welcome back, sir." Chen Howren quirked his lips. "Glad to be back." He waved at Song Yue Lin, who stepped forward and presented a bag of gold taels to the flustered fellow. "Let it be known that the next round of drinks is on me." Chi carried his voice across the room. He was returned with silence. "What?" The poor waiter could scarcely finish his question when Chen Howren took him by the shoulders and pointed him back toward the bar. "Make sure every person here gets another round," he said, "and keep the drinks flowing till the gold runs out." Thus encouraged, the waiter rushed to inform the rest of the staff. Soon the restaurant became lively as the alcohol was served and the music picked up again. Laughter and cheering spread from table to table as they toasted their new cups. A few even tilted their cups his way. The waiter brought over 2 saucers of rice wine for him and Song Yue Lin. Chen Howard made sure to raise his cup back to the appreciative patrons before toasting Song Yue Lin. One down. Chen Howard finished his drink in one swig. 5 more restaurants to go. He cast an eye across the drunken immortal pavilion, and seeing there were no hiccups, left the boisterous building. I still don't see why I have to be here, Song Yuelin said. Because I wanted you to be, Chen Howard said, and you didn't refuse. I thought you would have a real job for me to do. You do have a job. You're carrying the money. I think you don't want me near Lady Fan. After the stunt you pulled? Of course I wouldn't. Chen Howard ignored Song Yuelin's excuses as they boarded the carriage. They were hitting 6 of the most popular restaurants in the city today, and over the course of the week would be going around the less popular venues. On the face of it, Chen Haoren looked like he was trying to buy people's hearts through their livers, and that was true. What he was really buying, though, was attention. Where Chen Haoren made it rain, Lan Fen had her people sowing seeds and spreading the story of his spat with Lan Yao. It was already gossip worthy of the tabloids back on Earth on its own. A notorious scoundrel getting knocked back down by the pride of his in-laws' family. It was front-page stuff, and they would make sure everyone was talking about it. They had to set the stage after all. Are we, are we there yet? Song Yue Lin moaned. Don't you fucking start! And that's basically how it went, Chen Haoren said. He toweled his damp hair, fresh from the bath and smelling like roses. So there were no issues? Lan Fan asked. She had pulled up a chair before the tall bronze mirror in his room and was brushing her hair. A song from, aside from Song Yuelin himself being himself, no, he replied. He spat out the leaf he had been chewing on. His mouth was cold with the taste of mint. How are things on your end? There was no sign of the pest, clone or otherwise. It seems he does not possess the means to monitor us both at once. That was good news, at least. It didn't mean as much for Lan Fen currently, as there was no way Song Yue Lin would let her out of his sight after today's stunt. To him, though, he would finally have some guaranteed privacy while Song Yue Lin was stalking Lan Fen. He climbed into bed, and the sheets and curtains long since changed from the original gaudy red to a much easier on the eyes green. Lan Fen slipped under the sheets on the other side. They lay together in silence, their backs toward the other. Is he really not watching? Chen Haoren asked, unable to bear the silence any longer. He is not, Lan Fen said. She suddenly scoffed. What's wrong? He asked, startled. Nothing, was her prompt reply. Chen Haoren settled back into his pillows uneasily. He had absolute trust in Lan Fen's sensing, but he couldn't help but think something was wrong. There was no way Song Yue Lin was actually fooled by their act the other day. He had to know they were using the time in his bedroom to exchange information and strategize. Was it really out of courtesy that he deliberately left them alone, or was this just another of his mind games? If so, for who? Chen Haoren or... Lan Fen shifted into a more comfortable position, and he was viscerally aware of her body. He felt how the mattress rose and fell with her weight, how the space she occupied made his king-sized bed feel small, how the heat she radiated tempted him to cast off the covers lest he cook beneath the silk. What did she feel? Just so you're aware, he said. He tamped down unnecessary thoughts. I tend to move around in my sleep, so feel free to kick me if I do. That was my original plan, she said it lightly. He could almost hear the smile in her voice. They didn't sleep immediately, using the waning twilight to prepare for tomorrow, whispering quiet plans and foretelling danger in hushed warning. It was oddly peaceful in its own strange, pragmatic way. Chen Howard let himself drift off into dreamless sleep. Once again in his office, once again taking a risk. I hope you two slept well, young Song Yue Lin said. He was unhealthily happy. Chen Howard could barely wait for the day he made the man's shit-eating grin a literal one. Alas, he could only suffer in silence. Is that hand gesture supposed to mean something, young Master Chen? He put his hand down. It's a very polite sign. Can we get on with our business? Lan Fen interrupted. She walked around his desk and laid a hand on his shoulder, reassuringly squeezing it. He could almost feel a sense of security travel down her hand and fill him. No matter what happened, Lan Fen would whisk them away to a place they couldn't be touched. Bolstered by this knowledge, Chen Haoren pushed 2 books towards Song Yue Lin. Take these. These are my contribution to the Chen family. Song Yue Lin raised an eyebrow. These the techniques you practice? Yes. Song Yue Lin cracked open the Yellow Dragon River refinement and flipped through it. He stopped. No wonder you have progressed so quickly. He flipped back to the beginning and carefully paged through the book. Then he picked up the canyon carving sword and repeated the process. These techniques are practically designed to be picked up quickly by those who learn the Yellow River refinement and stone carving sword. That didn't bode well for the potential quality of his spirit root. In fact, seeing Song Yue Lin's reaction, he was sure that his spirit root was a low-grade one. Song Yue Lin looked up. Where did you even find something like this? I got very, very lucky. It was the honest truth. Song Yue Lin clearly had some issue with it as he looked at him in disbelief. Song Yue Lin took the moment to intercede. The pools of the Clear Spring Mountains have their sources in many places. Who knows what mysteries the waters may carry down? Lan Fen's Chen Howren's mind was quick to supply 2 such mysteries, although he had no proof of it. He didn't feel like Lan Fen was making up nonsense. Could she and Lan Yao have stumbled upon their treasures in some distant pool? What were the odds that the 2 cultivators from the same family were lucky enough to find such life-changing items around the same time? Perhaps they found them in the same place. Chen Howren felt the cold chill of realization race down his spine. That was why Lan Yao wanted to get hold of Lan Fen without the Lan family knowing. I see, though Song Yuelin didn't sound like he did. He snapped the book shut. So what is it you wanted me to do? So what is it that you wanted me to do that you tried to bribe me? Of course, Song Yuelin would notice. Chen Howren felt Lan Fan's hand tense in preparation on his shoulder. I plan to reveal my Earth rank cultivation by the end of the week, he said. Song Yuelin hummed. A bold move, and the easiest way to reveal Lan Yao's own Earth rank cultivation, Lan Fen added. Which is why you're reminding people of young Master Chen's embarrassing encounter with her, Song Yuelin finished. I trust you're aware of the risks involved with such a move. I am, Chen Howren said. This was my idea. Between the risks that came with revealing it versus the benefits that came with it giving it to the Chen family, the choice was clear. After I reveal it is where you come in. To protect you from all the scavengers desperate for an opportunity, Song Yuelin's statement was harsh but accurate. A smile spread across his face. Unlike his usual shining joy, however, this one was an indulgent and arrogant thing that twisted his face into something unrecognizable. Why should I help you, though? What reason do I have? It was a dangerous smile. Lan Fen's grip on his shoulder was white-knuckled. It made sense. He had known Song Yue Lin longer than her, and even he was uneasy with what they were attempting. Chen Howren reached up and grasped Lan Fen's hand. If she was startled, she didn't show it, but he felt her tenseness recede, and he returned to being a firm grip. He had gotten to know Song Yue Lin, through moments both quiet and annoying, introspective and dangerous. He had seen his character, and perhaps that was it. Just a character. A role Song Yuelin slipped into and nothing more. He didn't think it was all lies, though. From when they first met to the Chi Pool to the City Lord, there had been a thread of truth running through all of it. Chen Haoren didn't know what sort of ending Song Yuelin had in store for him, but right now at least he could grab that one true thread with confidence. He stared into Song Yuelin's sneering eyes. His fake eyes. These techniques belong to the Chen family, and you'll sooner pluck those vultures' wings than let them feast on even the smallest of the family's scraps. Song Yuelin stared at him. Chen Haoran finally calmly met his gaze. The facade broke. The ugly smile Song Yuelin wore was wiped away and replaced with a much smaller but more natural one. I shall accept these techniques then in the name of the Chen family. Chen Howard let out the breath he had been holding, and he could feel Lan Fan relax. Their risk had been for naught. The image he had of Song Yue Lin hadn't been for naught. Now they just needed to keep greasing the wheels of rumor till the weekends. Then he goes to the arenas. End chapter 30. Well, it sounds like they've got a plan at least, and a decent grasp of how Song Yue Lin operates. I'm afraid that's all I've got prepared for today. I'd like to thank you all for coming, though I think only Pope Badger is left. Thank you, Pope Badger. Tomorrow I will be continuing my reading of Stray Cat Strut. That's the cyberpunk story set around a woman in the position of a samurai, though samurai is a title given to protectors of the earth. I'm glad you could make it, Pope Badger. I hope you have a pleasant day. Let's see, what should we do now? I think I'll just end stream. Good night, Pope